Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle and triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. I always love it when I see my guests jamming in the background. It's just the best. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Galit. Galit is a serial entrepreneur who dominates her industry. She is the co-founder of Everyday Woman, a 25-year broker slash owner of commercial professionals. She is a paid professional speaker. She coaches women to seven figures, is the author of Successful Woman's Mindset, founder of Everyday Woman TV, and received the award for Entrepreneur of the Year from Silver State Awards. Now, don't think that all of this was handed to Galit. From the age of 7 to 13, she struggled with speaking. She had lost her voice and was enrolled in speaking therapy and had to strain her voice to speak. As she grew up, she ended up in a male-dominated industry and has been dismissed dozens of times. The obstacles that she has overcome in her personal and business life could have deterred her from progressing, but she never let up. Galit is here today to talk about dominating in an industry despite any setbacks that come your way. Welcome, lady.
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to share with you, Sabrina. I love how you described your podcast and your show at the beginning. Those two sentences, that description for me is like everything that you could want a woman to be out there doing for other women. So I just want to share that I just loved it. I'm going to start with that first.
Great intro. Great intro. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And it's evolved. It's evolved as I've been meeting so many people, and this platform has become a real warm place for me. The women that come on here and share their journeys and their stories and all of these beautiful little nuggets of information. If you listen to all of them, it's transformational for real. It really is. So I
Yes.
so appreciate
Yes.
you taking some time out of your day to hang out with me and talk to all of us and share your journey and your story and where you've been, what you've done. So thank you. How you doing today,
Thank
by the way?
you.
Happy Thursday.
I'm doing amazing. I'm over on the West Coast. I can't remember where you are, Sabrina. Are you as well?
Florida.
Yeah. So I'm 3 hours. It's a little bit earlier here. It's about 11 a.m. I've already been at it since 7 a.m. because I'm an early bird. I'm doing absolutely amazing. It's gorgeous outside. I have nothing that I can complain about,
I
really.
love it.
Nothing.
I love it. We're on the opposite beaches because I'm
Yes, we
East
are.
Coast on the beach, not just East Coast.
Yes. And
That's
I'm
cool.
in Las Vegas in the desert.
Yeah. I was thinking beach because I saw that beautiful scenery behind you.
Oh my gosh, I spend so much time at the beach. That's actually one of the places that I love to go the most, the ocean. And California being so close, I can go often.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah,
Well, listen, I so appreciate you being here. I would love to just kind of hand the floor off to you for a couple minutes just to kind of
sure.
get an overview of your life and where you've been and your journey, and then kind of just take the conversation from there. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to.
Awesome.
One of the first things I typically love to share that people, when they look at me, because we live in a society where we judge, it is what it is. They don't recognize a lot of times that I am first generation American. Both my parents are immigrants. They moved here right before I was born. My mom was pregnant with me, about 5 months pregnant. My background is Turkish, Moroccan, Italian, and Israeli. And that you
Wow.
can't see from this blonde haired white girl. One of the funnest things for me to do was to get my DNA done because I don't look what I am. And I'm very light like my father, but my mom is dark. And unfortunately, I didn't get her beautiful olive skin, which I would have just loved to have. So I love to start with that because my father and mother moved to America to chase the American dream. My dad was working 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. We were living in a 1-bedroom apartment. It was just me at the time. My brother came 3 years later. And even though I was very little, I was raised in a multicultural home, bilingual. My first language was not English. My second language was English. I'm the first person in my family to graduate college, to get a master's degree, a bachelor's degree. Everything was firsts because I'm the oldest of four. But I think I love where I came from because it gave me such an understanding of what it is to work hard. But the best part about my childhood is mom was always about the family. She was a full-time mom, full-time PTA mom. She was raising us. Dad was working hard to build the American dream. They just celebrated their 51st anniversary, and they built this beautiful life together and made sure we understood working hard, but playing harder. And that's a big part of what I am and who I am. So from there, really honestly, Sabrina, my story starts probably before that with my voice, and we'll talk about that later. But I have a nodule on one of my vocal cords. So I was not born with this voice. When my vocal cords hit, you get this. A lot of times I get asked, do you have a cold? Do you smoke? No, I don't. Does it hurt to speak? No, it doesn't. I just sometimes get colds and stuff like that, but it's benign. It's not dangerous. And I decided not to have surgery when I was 16. We'll talk about that later. And I really wanted to embrace what I was given, which I believe God gave me. And then he helped me literally find my voice when I was 13 in speech therapy. From there, yeah, and I was terrified to speak in public. It was the most scariest thing in the world the first day of school. And my story really goes from there and building the courage as I got older to embrace that I was different, between having parents with accents, having a different name, being bilingual, being a different religion than most people, and recognizing that I had to kind of just embrace who I am. And when I was graduating college, all my friends were starting to look for jobs, and I just didn't want to work for anybody. And I got to see my dad build this entrepreneurial world because he went from working for somebody else 6-7 days a week, 16 hours a day, to building one of the largest companies on the West Coast for cabinets and selling it for millions of dollars when I was probably around 12. So I got to see this progression, and I said, wait, I don't have to do what is expected of me. Graduate college, go work for somebody. And that's how I started my entrepreneurial world and journey. And I got my real estate license at the age of 21, opened my first company at the age of 24. I've had it now for 25 years. You now know how old I am. And I started my first company right before I had my first child, which is 25 and a half years old today.
What?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to him, her.
I have 3 boys, so.
Awesome. I love that. Wow, real estate at 21. How was that? Was that scary?
Well, I originally went into what was expected. Here we go again. You're going to hear me say that a lot, Sabrina. It was expected I was a woman, so go get your license and sell homes. Now, I was way younger than the average age of an agent. At the time, most agents were doing this as their second career. They might have been in their 30s or their 40s.
Yeah.
But I went into residential. It was not for me. It was way too emotional. I really like business. And I started there. Didn't like it, didn't go as well, decided to become an intern for a very large commercial real estate group at the time, which had 2 women on the team, which was a very big deal because it was mostly men and over the age of 40.
Okay. Wow. What do you mean too emotional?
I have a master's degree in therapy. I'm going to share that because a lot of what I share is based on therapy models. But one of the most stressful things you will ever go through in your life is buying a home.
Wow,
So there's a
really?
lot of emotion. Yeah, it's the top two. It's losing someone you love and buying a home.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's pretty emotional. You know, it's a big deal to sell your home. It's a big deal to buy a home. And I found that for me at that time, being so young, hadn't even bought my first home yet, there was a lot of emotion involved when working. The buyers and the sellers had a lot of emotion. And it wasn't for me because I knew it wasn't. Some people do a great job with it. That's why I ventured over into the commercial real estate world, because it's really business. It's numbers. It's what is the building going to make me? How much return can I have? You're
Wow.
working with business people. So it's a little bit different than sales. And I found that that fit me a little bit more than selling. Instead of selling homes, I found commercial real estate fit me a bit more.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. Besides living with my parents, I've never lived in a house and made it a home because while I was working, I was traveling so much. I've moved literally like 12 times in the last,
Wow.
I don't even know, like 10 years or something. Well, more than that. But I was always moving in order to like build the business bigger. So I never paid attention to my house. But I could see that if you're living in a house for 20, 30 years and you've done all the things, yeah, that would be emotional. I get
And
that.
sometimes it's related to having moving, a death in the family that you need to sell,
Got
losing
it.
a job. There's so many different things associated with that. And it's common that it's an emotional thing. And it's not easy to move either. Moving is just not a fun thing for most people.
Yeah. What's the other language you speak?
Hebrew.
Hebrew. Wow.
Yeah,
And then is your first name Galit? Is that Hebrew?
it
No
is.
kidding.
Yeah.
I like your name. I think it's beautiful.
Oh,
Galit.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's tough when you're growing up because we're supposed to fit in these boxes and be like everybody else.
Yeah.
But when you learn to embrace your uniqueness, and of course it takes some time,
Yeah.
then you appreciate it. And I love having this name today. And there aren't a lot of us, meaning in my city, or it's, I can't tell you the last time I ran into a Galit. There's a few in my city that I know because we all know each other. There's maybe one or two, but it became part of my uniqueness and just kind of worked with everything else that I was.
Yeah. It's so interesting hearing you say that because you don't at I've only lived in the US. So I don't realize that uncommon names here are potentially common somewhere else. So that's interesting hearing you say that.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I'm like, I would never.
Very common.
Wow.
Yes, very common name, especially for my age group, because names have age groups. And my age group, when I was running down the beach visiting over there in Israel, my parents, I would hear my name and I think it was my parents, and it wasn't. It was a very common name. I actually would compare it to the name Jennifer. Very common. Mm,
No.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, that is so interesting. I
yeah.
love that. So you must love it here. You're like one and only. You could be like an oak.
Well, I want to hope each of us are one and only, but my name helps a little bit, right? And
Yes.
completely funny story, Sabrina. In
Yeah.
the last year, I friended this amazing musician. Her name is Galit as well.
Uh-huh.
And we're very close, and she's amazing. She's doing fabulous things with her music. She's a beautiful voice. She's a mom as well, and not 20 something, just starting out in the business. And so she's sending me screenshots or tagging me, and it says Galit, and she only uses her first name, and it says Galit Music. And I love it because she's getting all these accolades, and I get to feel like I'm getting them too because it's the same name.
Yes, yes, I totally get that. I love that. So fun. Well, definitely a journey. Definitely a journey. I so appreciate that. And you started out so young, in an industry that I don't think that that is normal. I so give you some applause for that because I feel like by that age or at that age, because you had to have been studying when you were 20. I mean, that's a feat to even think that that's something that was possible for you to do. That's awesome. I feel like I would have been too scared to do that at 20. Like almost
I
like how dare I?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I get asked often, why did you get into the industry? And I'll share that. And how were you comfortable with it? I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I didn't have a fear that a lot of people have, which is fear of failure. I now work with women to show them how to get past it in their business. And I don't think failure scared me because I had experienced quite a bit younger. My best friend committed suicide when I was 15 years old, and I was one of the last people she spoke to. And I never blamed myself. I went through and took care of myself and self-care. And I experienced, of course, the voice thing at such a young age with kids being so mean. Not everybody, but there's always kids that are
Yeah.
mean. And then moving to a different city when I was 14, which is Las Vegas, and having to kind of re-explain my name and re-explain my voice and be in high school when you're trying to find your corner and you're like, and I had so many amazing people that supported me and loved me, but there's always those kids that don't understand why you're different again, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But if you ask, a little while ago, I asked my mom, I said, Mom, did I ever say to you I wanted to be a speaker or an author? Or when I got, are you crazy? You never mentioned any of that. It was nothing I ever thought to do.
Wow.
It was just something I was supposed to, aside from the commercial real estate. But I would probably say, Sabrina, when I was that young, I knew I loved business. I got my first degree in business. I knew I wanted to do something that people wouldn't tell me what I could and couldn't do. And I never actually probably even thought of what the industry was like because I didn't concern myself with the people that weren't going to approve of me, even though I've spent so much time proving myself because
Yeah.
that's what you have to do in this industry. But I think I just wanted it. And I was like, all right, we'll figure it out as we go along. And I failed a lot and I figured out some of it and I didn't figure out some of it. And it made me who I am today so I can show other women how to do it too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to ask, through your journey and all of the ups and downs that you've kind of been through, one of the biggest things that has gotten me to where I am now is the areas in which there was some sort of not so good thing that happened, whether it's a trauma or whether it's a failure or something of the sorts. I want to ask, what would you consider to have been like your biggest failure, the biggest thing that's kind of happened in your life, and what did you learn from that experience?
Professionally, I will share with you that I don't know that it's a failure. I think it was more of a challenge for me because it was so challenging, but I had to be in commercial real estate during the recession in 2008, 2009. And I was, from the day I got in, I was in an up and it was nonstop, right? What did I get my license? 1997. So I was going, or 1995, I think even, and I was going and going. And then all of a sudden, 2007, 2008 showed up and you're in survival mode. And I have agents that are looking at me, right, to go into terrified mode. And I've got to make sure that I'm standing strong and you have to pivot. That was a word we used then, not just now, where I had to figure out how do I survive because I'm not selling properties anymore. So I had to figure out the challenge of I don't want to fail,
Yeah.
even though your income drops and so much changes. So I sat back and I said to myself, okay, I think that's a story I share a lot, especially when I talk about leadership in my talks, because everyone was looking at me to see what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Because, oh gosh, if Galit's freaking out, how are we going to keep it together? And I had to show up every day at work, even though inside I was freaking out. And I had to be like, okay, what are we saving today? And we literally, Sabrina, for 2 to 3 years, all we did was save properties for owners, figuring out how they could pay their mortgage, how to get the tenants to stay, figuring out how to buy the notes in auction. I mean, it was the most amazing learning experience for 3 years. I could have never learned that in school.
Wow.
I could have never learned it. Yeah.
Wow. No kidding. Definitely something as far as showing resilience That's
Yes.
like a whole nother level. That's a lot of weight on the
Yes.
shoulder.
Yes. And
Wow.
I think for me, the dealing with your biggest failure, and it's not that I don't want to share a failure. I think it's my personality. I'm going to be really honest, Sabrina. When I look back at my life, I don't look at the things that I've accomplished or not accomplished as a failure, because I learned something from every single
Yeah.
situation. And you ask, how do you, like, if you said to me, how do you deal with your biggest failure? My response to you would be, the way that I deal with my biggest failure is I better learn something from that, because I don't want to do it again, and I don't want to fail again. So for me, it's what lessons can I learn from where I failed? So it could be different, because one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they don't stop. They don't stop and look at their failure and recognize, okay, this is on me. First of all, stop blaming everybody else. This is on me. Yes, there are consequences and environments, and yes, but at the end of the day, what could I do differently so it doesn't happen again?
Yeah.
Learn from that and then get right back out there. Like, don't stop,
Yeah.
but stop just to be aware and get right back out there.
Yeah, 100%. Where do you think that that comes from? Because I feel like there are two different types of people with that. Um, do you think that comes from something?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me how I am so optimistic and positive and I have a mindset that's successful, and I say, first of all, trial and error. You got to go through the failures. Here we go. You got to go through the failures, and you got to give yourself a chance to learn from them. I think that I believe some people are born with an optimistic mindset. I'm going to be honest with you.
I
I
think so
do.
too.
But I also think that you can be taught it. And I think that you can change it, because I don't wake up every day like this automatically. You have to put in the work to work on yourself every single day. And I want to be someone that spends the rest of my life bettering myself. So what that entails is looking at your crap and looking at what doesn't work and looking at what you don't like about your life and yourself. And sometimes that's not easy for people, because then you have to make changes that are not easy, right? I got a divorce after being with someone for 19 years. I turned my world upside down. It was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
But it had to be done. And so sometimes we don't stop and look at our life and understand it. And for me, I start and end with myself every day. I don't blame people for the things that have happened to me. I don't talk about people in that way. It's me. Where was my part? Because every failure that I experienced, I had something to do with. It's just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.